Hi everyone.
How's it going?
Welcome to episode number
21?
21
Yeah, all right.
Web Analytics TV.
In the United States, we can start drinking.
Really true, yes.
If we were in Europe, we'd already be drinking. Okay.
All right, so we clearly have too much fun doing this. Thank you for all your excellent questions, and to those of you who went to the website and voted. We really appreciate that because this show wouldn't be possible without your questions and votes.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that a lot. The first question of episode number 21 goes to my good friend Nick. And the question is, how can a funnel be set up for a process that involves an intermediary step like verification? For example, an account creation process that involves a verification email before completing the account creation. And this question is from JenBits in New York.
Great.
Great question.
This is great. Yeah. So we actually wrote down kind of what the user path was, and just to really think through this problem. So there's kind of two challenges with the problem. The first one is in Google Analytics, all the flow, all the funnel navigation is what we call an open funnel. So somebody can come in from any step. So even if you have these intermediary steps that are important, they could still come in from the bottom step without accomplishing those tasks that you want them to do, and then convert. So funnels is not the right solution. The other problem or challenge that you're going to run into is now with one campaign per session, the fact that you're throwing in here this intermediary step with an email campaign means that the person who might come to your site will leave and come back from an email campaign. Most likely means that you'll have them in 2 sessions.
Correct.
And
Correct.
Google Analytics does session-based analysis.
Yes.
You can't track hand session, right?
Correct.
So you have these 2 challenges. So
challenges a lot, but
we have a
there is
solution. That's why it's a good show, right?
No.
So what you have to do is you don't use funnels, and you can't actually track across both sessions, but you can track in the session from when they came from the email campaign.
Correct.
So what we
That they came back from the email verification, and they came to your site, went through the rest of the funnel, converted.
Right.
That can be tracked.
That can be tracked.
Just a little manually.
Right. And so what we recommend you do is you can use an advanced segment to filter out all the people who came from this registration email, and then go into the top content report and figure out what are the specific pages that people are in your funnel, and then take a look at the total number of unique page views and do the calculations of how many people went from step A to B to C. And so you have to do it manually, but at least you can answer the business question.
And there are two things here that would be important steps. The first one would be make sure your email campaign that is sending people back to your site has some UTM parameters or something.
Exactly. Some way to track it to differentiate. Yes.
So we can segment that group separately. Right. And secondarily, I can use my inline filters in my top content report. I can just search for the URL that I'm interested in, and I just note it down and just do it in Excel or on napkin.
Right.
And actually, you can create the exact same funnels. It's a wonderful idea. Nick.
Yeah, fantastic. Good question.
And also, Nick touched on this idea of how the computation of visits and is changed in Google Analytics, and I just did a video on this, explaining what the change is and how it works. So we'll link to that in the show notes. In case you guys are confused, we've got a video on YouTube that you can go watch.
That's good.
So you know exactly what is happening.
Absolutely. Okay, a question for you, Avinash. This one's from David in Vancouver, Washington. In a client's GA account, I've created a profile that blocks our company IP and their IP address. But if they or we test forms that lead to a thank you page, which is a goal page, will that filtered profile show our testing and completed goals or not?
So you will not show that, David, because the way that it works in Google Analytics is that the filters get applied initially and the hits are sort of taken away. And so the data that you would need for goal processing happens much later than the step that actually takes the data away, which means it actually removes the data that you've set up to be removed. So it will not be showing up in the goal conversions.
Good.
Here's a question for you, Nick. And it's from Peter, our good friend Peter in Eindhoven, Netherlands. And Peter asks, is it possible to use regex when setting up event goals within Google Analytics version 5? I set a category to 0 to 9, action to 0 to 9, label to period, and the value to 0. I think only Peter understands what all that means. Right. But now all the numbered categories and the actions with any label and value should trigger the goal. So can you actually, I think the simple question, is it possible to use regex when setting up event goals in V5?
Yes, and the answer is yes. In the actual event goal configuration, you can, regex matches strings, and so there's 3 string values for events: category, action, and label. And so it's actually a little bit, maybe a little bit confusing at first, but there's a match type called that matches, and that's really meaning that matches a regular expression. So
So we
use
made
that
the UI
translate.
confusing.
So use that matches, and you'll get the regular expression match. We don't have that for values, which are numeric. There you can only compare greater, less than, or equal to.
Yes, but for the other three, you're
you
fine.
can do regex. Yep.
Great, great. Another one for you here, Nick, from our good friend Josh in Minnesota. Hi, Josh. And his question is, can you set up channel groupings in multi-channel funnels to reflect landing pages? For example, can I have a grouping for organic traffic that landed on a URL containing /blog or /press release? See AdWords URLs but not landing pages. So he's able to see AdWords URLs but not landing pages.
Right. That's a good question. So the way the multi-channel funnels works today is you can create these groupings around AdWords data, not actually Google Analytics data. But within AdWords data,
AdWords data that is inside Google Analytics.
That is inside Google Analytics,
right.
Not the web behavior, the web analytics behavioral data. That's like the visitors and sessions.
Sure.
So in AdWords, there's this concept of a destination URL, and when somebody in an ad, you have a URL that you point people to, and so that's called the destination URL.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you click the destination URL, it takes you to a site, and then as web analytics, we'll measure that as the landing page. So effectively, the destination URL and the landing page are the same, so you can use destination URL today to create groupings around that.
There you go. Perfect. Awesome.
So here's a question for you. M. Varga Oslijek from Croatia.
Oslijek, yeah, Croatia. Yeah, I know him. Great guy.
How do you pronounce his name?
No. I think it's just his handle.
All right, fair enough.
He has an actual name that he's hiding, but that's okay.
Okay. Hi, Avinash and Nick. To measure the results of a particularly AdWords site link, I've created duplicate landing pages and used canonical for each site link and measure the number of landing visitors clicks. Is there a more elegant solution?
So one of the important things to realize here is we were a little confused about this question, and the simple thing is, when you search on Google and you see an AdWords ad with site links, the purpose is that rather than sending the person to just one page that was matched to the query in the ad, you can actually send them to other pages in site links. So for example, I could have done a generic query for Amazon, and I see an ad for Amazon, but the site links go to videos, books, and underwear, and food, whatever the sections of Amazon are. So for a generic query, I can go to the specific thing I was looking for. So typically, if you use site links, you would not be funneling all of those people to the same landing page. If you're doing that, there's something odd going on. So site links are supposed to send people to unique, different places on your website, and not the same page, so that you don't link in the same ad to the same page 5 times. So that's not what you would do. But you can track site links inside Google Analytics. And Nick, you have an idea for us how to track site links optimally?
Right, so there definitely are some best practices. So site links, again, are running from AdWords, and so we have this integration with AdWords called auto-tagging. And what auto-tagging does is it adds a little parameter when the ad is served, and if somebody clicks on it, analytics can read it and then map all that information. So if you have auto-tagging, we don't recommend you use manual campaign tracking parameters.
Right.
But you can use other different kind of query parameters. And so what you can do is create different query parameters on your destination URLs. Use auto-tagging, and then within Google Analytics, because those query parameters, Google Analytics will treat each of those pages differently, you can then actually look at the reports and filter down and say, show me the top landing pages where they had those actual additional parameters.
So let's give the Amazon example.
Yeah,
the
so
first
if
link
you're
goes to Amazon.com.
Right, and then the second top link goes to underwear. And so, like your example.
It'll be so Amazon.com/underwear,
Yeah.
question mark, SL, parameter, let's say SL, as for site link,
Sure.
equals something.
Something, right, exactly.
And then you can advanced segment it.
Right, exactly.
Got it. It's a wonderful idea. And we also have a good suggestion for somebody, those of you who are brave enough to do something very complicated.
Yeah, so our good friend Joost, so he actually has a very advanced way to do great reporting of site links. We'll link to it. And so if you want to get more richer reporting, use his solution.
Right. It is too hard to visualize that in a video.
We need a video just for his solution.
Here's a question for you, Nick, from Scott in Cleveland. I love this question. It says, bonjour, ninjas. Well, they speak French in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, there's
still Cleveland.
Yeah. There's still ninjas, too. I wonder if there's a French ninja term.
I have an email newsletter that has links with anchor tags in them that routes them to a specific part of a page. For example, it will go to www.site.com/article.html hash Article 3. So that's very standard.
Right.
How do I make this functionality work in Google Analytics and include campaign tagging? So in this case, let's say they're doing an email campaign, and rather than the person going to the page, they want to drop the person using the hash somewhere in the middle of the page. So how do we add campaign tracking to that?
It's great. It's actually, out of the box, analytics will read all the campaign tracking parameters from the query part of the URL. It's everything that goes after the question mark, but before the hash.
I see.
So if you just use the normal manual campaign tracking parameters and the hash that links down, deep links down to your site, everything will work for campaign tracking.
So it would be question mark UTM equals, like make an example.
UTM campaign equals spring promo,
Sure.
ampersand, UTM medium equals email, ampersand, UTM source equals, I don't know, something.
Article.
Hash, article 3. And so when somebody clicks on that link, they'll actually jump down to article 3, and all those campaign trackings will be associated with that session.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
The thing, what's also interesting is that Google Analytics will also report the hash as separate pages. So what we do, like for our code site where we link deep into it, we'll actually create filters to remove the hash, so we really clean up all the reports.
Okay, good.
Cool. Question for you here, Avinash from Nicholas in Sweden. Howdy, ninjas. What's the best way to track?
This is funny. Howdy from Sweden and bonjour from Cleveland.
No,
I'm like,
we got a good crowd.
we're planet Earth, one people. Go ahead.
We still have ninjas now. We have some consistency.
Commonality. We're all ninjas.
We're all ninjas. What is the best way to track data for a website that has different language versions by catalog? For instance, /UK or /FR for France. I'm thinking about using set cookie path. What are you thinking?
So if you use the underscore set cookie path to track the different language versions of the website, it will work. And what it will do is it would pull all the campaign data in different pools. So think about, let me use the word silos, right? And so what you'll be able to do is you will be able to report each language website all by itself just fine, beautifully. And if the same person switches language in between, so I read half the site in French, the other half in Russian, let's say I do that.
Like bonjour ninjas.
There you go.
Some people might.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it will store me in those two silos. And so you'll be able to do reporting for each language as if it were a unique website. And you will be able to do that all fine using the set cookie path methodology. Now the problem is just what I said, which is it will put people in different buckets. And if you wanted to know uniquely, let me combine all this data and uniquely let me see the unique visitors or things like that, you won't be able to do that. So you won't be able to do what we call roll-up reporting. So yes, you can do this, but there's that limitation. And Nick, you've got another way to think about this, but there's also a pro and con.
There's always a pro and con with web analytics.
Life.
Life has pros and cons. So the other ways, again, you could use one actual tracking code across all the different sites, and then you could use what's called profile filters to filter out different profiles for each of these different language sites.
I see.
And so that's what we do on our developer docs. We have different languages, and we have one cookie for everybody, but we actually have reports for different languages. And then the challenge with that, though, is that those filters are not actually applied to e-commerce transactions. So if you are doing e-commerce, then you're going to have to do something more like what Avinash was talking about,
right.
Where you have different profile or different cookies.
Cookies, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So there's again a pro and con. But if you have a content site, what we are doing on our code site will work beautifully.
Yeah, it's great. Because then we can get total visitors across the globe, and then we have views into different regions, and then we can compare keywords by those regions, because the search terms, French is going to be different than in the United States, right?
Right.
Pretty interesting. Great. So here's a question for you, Avinash. This is from Sainath in India. Hi there. How do I get the report which should contain 3 columns, campaign, ad group, and keyword?
So this is a good question. So as many of you know, that one of the things you can do in all Google Analytics standard reports is you can click on the secondary dimension drop down and choose any one of them to add to your report.
So he wants 3 here.
You can get 2 by standard.
Okay.
If you want 3, or 4, or 5, or 6, or 7, our solution is use the Google Analytics API. Because if you use the Google Analytics API to do your reporting, you can add up to 7 different dimensions. I tend to believe, unlike Nick, that by the time you get to 5 or 6, your data is getting too fragmented to make sense. But it is possible to do this using the Google Analytics API. And we'll add a link to the show notes where you can learn all about the options that you have in our API. So if you really have a good use case for this, please use the Google Analytics API.
Yeah, and a good point is that the API sounds very scary and technical if you're not technical, but there's people who've built tools and solutions on top of it that make it completely seamless, and so you can just go to Excel, use this plugin, select more dimensions and metrics that you want, click a button, and it just, in Excel, boom, you have all the data. So there's tools that make it super easy for non-technical people to get the value that we're providing.
Let's link to a few of those.
We'll link to a few of those. They're really good. Yeah, absolutely.
And so basically, all the code essentially disappears.
Great. You don't have to write code. You just
drag and drop whatever.
Solve problems.
Oh my gosh. Awesome.
All right. Question for you from Aaron in New York City. I guess he has a site with over 100,000 products, and he wants to track the performance of visitors to any product page. So for example, he wants to get the bounce rate of all product pages combined as one. Assuming there's a common ID in the code of all product pages, how can we track this in GA?
So I'm going to give you a very simple way to think about this. So if I wanted to track the performance of any of these products, I could, let's say I want bounce rate for all these product pages. So when you want bounce rate, what you want to know essentially is that these product pages were the landing pages. Otherwise, if they're deeper in the site and people saw them, that's already not a bounce.
Right.
So essentially what you want to look at is the top landing pages report. And what you want to look in your example for top landing pages report are just the product pages. And so extremely simple way to answer this question is go to the content section, go to the top landing pages report, and on top of the standard table that you see, there's an advanced filter. Click on that advanced filter and type in the ID that makes those product pages different. So let's say all 100,000 product pages are in a particular directory, or they all have the name product in the URL. So in the advanced filter, say, includes product in the URL page, in the page dimension, hit submit, and as soon as you hit submit, the report changes completely. In the detail section of the report, all you're seeing are product URLs. So you can see individual bounce rates for individual products. And if you look at the top of the report in the scorecard, you're seeing the aggregated bounce rate for all product pages. And so this is a very simple way where I just use the inline filter that is in the report already to find my product pages, look at the scorecard, boom, I've got the data I need.
Yeah.
And if you want to add some other metrics to that, go to a custom report, bring the landing pages dimension, and put any metrics you want, any other metrics you care about, rinse and repeat, boom, you're in business.
One question I have, that's an excellent solution because you can use it today without having to do anything out of the box. One of the questions for you for that is like, how would you get unique visitors across all the pages? Because again, you can't sum up unique visitors who go to the different pages. And how would you roll them up as one?
And it's the thing that we talked about a few minutes ago where you mentioned the wonderful user profile filters.
There we go.
It's just a great way for you to say, I'm going to take this bucket of data, this pool of data I'm interested in, I'm going to send it to this other place in addition to where I'm storing everything else, and just store this pool of data in a profile that has been filtered for the thing that I really want. And when I log into Google Analytics, I'm just going to go to that profile in order to get the data. And then you have that other wonderful thing. And of course, when you have data in a different profile, you can do even more things beyond what I suggested. So if you want to just get the quick answers, use the methodology, number one. If you want to have a more persistent way where everything's just there, you don't even need to apply the inline filters in a table, because who has 3 seconds? Boom, you've got the data over there, and you save 3 seconds. So Nick, our last question is for you. And it says, I have approximately 40% returning visitors on my client websites, with 90% of the transaction in the time to purchase report that are made within the first day. How can I see a report based on a UTMA visitor cookie? And this is from Robert in Rijeka, Croatia.
Yeah, no,
this is an easy answer, I think.
Right. Right. So we don't expose any visitor IDs through the product anywhere. So there's no way to see any visitor cookie data within Google Analytics.
So sorry about that, Robert. We also, before we go, we want to thank John from Brisbane, who has an excellent feature request. And he wants to be able to import campaign cost data from sources other than AdWords. It's a great request. John will make sure our product team is aware of this. Kaz from Las Vegas has another really great feature request connected to multi-channel funnels. Thank you, Kaz. And we've got a feature request from Daniel in Switzerland about GA tracking, and double-click. So thank you very much, Daniel. We'll make sure the product team gets that. And we've got a feature request connected to conversion reporting from Eric in Austin, Texas. So guys, thank you very much for these feature requests. We'll make sure we pass them on to the product team. And also, before we go, another wonderful thing that we always do.
Ninja of the episode.
Ninja of the episode.
Wait, we didn't do it?
All right. So we had a wonderful, fantastic question that both Nick and I really loved because it was such a good question. It came from Scott in Cleveland, our French person from Cleveland, Ohio. So Scott, send me an email, and for being the ninja of the episode, we're going to send you an autographed copy of Web Analytics 2.0.
Awesome.
And you know, my email is not that hard to find. So
he's going to autograph it. We're not both going to autograph it.
Well, Nick, join in. Join in. We'll both autograph it. And we'll send it to you, Scott. So please reach out to me with your postal address. This is episode number 21 for Web Analytics TV, and see the link on the top left of this video to go submit questions for episode number 22, or we'll have a link in the blog post at the bottom as well where you can go submit your questions, or go and rate questions submitted by other people so we can pick the ones that you really want to know about. Thanks very much, and happy analytics.